Day 721 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzy here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. So starting off, we'll take a look at those Russian losses, as currently Russia sits on just a little bit more than 399,000 military personnel losses, which represents an additional 950 in the past 24 hours. Then, as for hardware losses, 9 tanks, a whopping 47 APVs, and a mind-boggling 54 artillery. Then we'll start off just off the coast of the Crimean Peninsula on the map today. As no doubt you've probably already heard, just yesterday the Ukrainian armed forces confirmed the sinking of the Russian landing ship, the Kunikov, as it happened at the Black Sea, making for another additional significant loss for Russia's naval capabilities. Now, this operation, a collaboration between Ukraine's military intelligence and armed forces, utilized the Magura V5 naval drones off the coast of the Crimean city of Alupka. Earlier in the day, Russia's defense ministry reported the interception of 6 drones over the Black Sea, a claim followed by sightings of helicopters presumably engaged in search activities over those Black Sea waters. And do note, that location of the destruction of the Russian ship is approximately about 350 kilometers by sea to the coast of Odessa. So, as we can see, Ukraine has been methodically stepping up its maritime warfare capabilities, with, so far, the AFU managing to destroy at least 20 Russian warships, with an additional 12 or so undergoing repairs, which represents a considerable impact on the Russian Black Sea fleet, indicating a significant depletion of its strength in the region. And oddly enough, the Kunikov was destroyed the same day as its namesake died, Officer Kunikov of the Soviet Naval Infantry, who died on the 14th of February 1943. And at the end of the day, this is not the first landing ship destroyed by Ukraine, and certainly won't be the last. Noting that Russia started off with 13 of them at the beginning of the war, but now down to only 5. Problemsome, given that these ships are very much required to move military cargo and sustain Russia's own occupation efforts in the Crimean Peninsula and beyond. Oh, and fun fact, on average, Russia is losing a Black Sea Fleet naval ship once every 25 days now. Impressive, or disastrous. Then moving across on the map to central Russia in its Altai Krai region, as a heavy explosion occurred at a military manufacturing plant. Bearing in mind, this is some 3,000 kilometers or about 2,000 miles away, so we can rule out long-ranged Ukrainian drones for now. So it was either Sergei the Smoker or the ineptitude of appalling safety standards inside Russian factories, or partisan activity like that of the Atesh group, or possibly, in some of these instances, the case of weapons producers threatened with unrealistic quotas direct from the Kremlin to manufacture at high volumes, at levels that are just insurmountable. And so much so that the only easy way out is a little accident at the facility. You see, a dictator ruling with an iron fist can indeed have its drawbacks. Then, also in Russia, an oil depot caught fire as a result of a drone attack in the Kursk Oblast. I really think we're witnessing a real-time decline, and in some cases literally a destruction of the Russian Empire here, folks. Then we'll head across to the Ukrainian map today, as in the aftermath of yesterday's events in the Black Sea, Russia responded seemingly throwing a little bit of everything into long-range strikes against multiple regions throughout Ukraine, but certainly not at the level of, say, a salvo of 100 missiles like they used to for a short period of time. This time it was more like 20, with the use of their KH-101 missiles, their Kalibr missiles, their Iskander, S-300 and KH-59 missiles. A total of 10 missiles fired for the Kyiv capital were all shot down. Then in Zaporizhia, an infrastructure object was hit, and a warehouse in the east as well. Then we'll head across to the Donbas sector today. No shortage of activity in the Avdiivka region. In fact, as we can see here, a tight squeeze in the south as Russian forces are in the process of taking the remainder of the M3 highway just below. Also, Russian forces are making quite the salient push on the new northern flank, while they avoid a head-on battle at the coke and chemical plant just north of their positions there, instead opting to try and move in around it. And naturally, they're also looking to travel about 5 kilometers south to perform an operational encirclement by reaching Opitne, for instance. And they'd also very ideally like to take control of the last main road route into Avdiivka, which operates as a supply line for Ukrainian forces. And aggressive moves like these can be costly and even questionable in terms of sustainability sometimes. In fact, costly it has been, as we've seen a lot of Russian hardware and infantry eliminations as a result of these intensified operational moves. And for instance, there was also another Russian column destroyed overnight that we saw. So it's a very fluid situation in this region right now, and it remains to be seen what the upcoming outcomes of this northern protrusion will be in the next day or two. Then, somewhere in the east, some Ukrainian forces from the 14th Mechanized Brigade hit a Russian Mr. S 152mm SPG, or self-propelled howitzer, causing an immediate ammunition detonation. Then another one hit a Russian Mr. S again, this time with an FPV drone. And as a gentle reminder, Soviet-built SPGs don't grow on trees. And Russia has an SPG production capacity that is so low that these losses are practically irreplaceable. Then also, somewhere not yet determined on the map, a very special delivery, as it looks like the newly delivered to Ukraine GL-SDB missiles are already in use, as Russian channels shared this video footage, which apparently shows the tail section. No information so far on when, where, or even the outcome, but as a reminder, the operational range of these missiles is 150 kilometers or thereabouts 90 miles. They're highly maneuverable and difficult to intercept, and of course, very nearly twice the range of the very successful HIMARS-GMLRS rockets used by Ukraine in this war. Then headed across to some news for today. So, Ecuador will transfer 6 Mi-17 helicopters to Ukraine as they transition to US Blackhawks. And reportedly, Putin was very unhappy about this transfer, causing Russia to swiftly block banana imports from Ecuador, which boomeranged pretty quickly because Russia didn't find the replacement trade partners. It was just a reactive afterthought, but fear not. They have a solution, as some Russian government politicians suggested to the public to grow their own bananas instead. In the middle of a Russian winter. Good luck with that. Then moving across to some Russian hardware news, and in some unsurprising news, Russia has been sacrificing quality for quantity in its mission to provide sufficient armored vehicles to its troops. And they do this by way of replenishing inventories by raiding Soviet stockpiles and dwindling aged and rusted stockpiles at that. Although this particular article account of quote-unquote sacrificing quality is a bit strongly worded, given that all it takes is 1 or 2 Ukrainian FPV drones to take out Russia's best T-90 tanks. And Ukraine is getting very good at it. Then in some more news, the European Union now proposes sanctions on Chinese firms aiding Russia's war effort. Ouch. This action is a component of the EU's plan to eliminate gaps that enable Russia to obtain military technology via intermediary nations. And given that international trade is almost like China's national religion over there, then if these types of sanctions are implemented then stepped up, China would be eventually forced to perform something of a cost-benefit analysis that goes something along the lines of trade with Russia or trade with the West. Then moving across to a couple of quick funnies to round it all off today, guys. So Putin recently had an internal Russian interview speaking about his interview with Tucker Carlson from last week. Or in other words, Putin gave a damage control interview related to another damage control interview. And shed a tear for Putin because he said he did not enjoy the interview. And had hoped that in the end viewers should come to their own conclusions. And that they did, but not in the way Putin came to his own conclusions based on some really twisted and distorted historical narratives. Then, as for a quick funny to round it all off today, guys, so a pro-Russian Twitter account user recently posted some Russian Black Sea Fleet footage with a comment stating, quote, "Anyone who believes Ukraine can beat Russia is clinically insane." However, he failed to realize that the footage that he posted was old military propaganda footage of Russia's, for which he was community noted on the platform for the fact that 4 out of the 5 large surface vessels displayed on said video have already been destroyed. So act first, think later. Which kind of reminds me of Russia's failings when it came to the banning of the banana imports from Ecuador. So at this rate, Russia might end up overtaking Australia as the well-known boomerang nation. So that will be it for today, guys. Thanks again for watching. Please continue to like and comment as always. I always do really super appreciate it. And I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers.